Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or even good evening if you're joining me here in the UK. My name's John Tracy, and for the next 45 minutes or so, I've got some pretty cool things to share with you. Now, the focus of a lot of these live streams is Q&A. So if you are joining and you want to ask any questions, then please do drop the comments in the comments. We'll get to a point where I'll pull them up on the screen and I will answer as many questions as I possibly can. For those of you that haven't joined any of my live streams before, basically they run kind of similar. I've got some data that I want to share with you. I've got some questions that I've been asked in advance if I would answer them. And then when we get to the end, we'll just have a complete free-for-all and we'll see how far we go. So with that, if you are joining, welcome to the live stream. Maybe if you are new here, just pop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're coming in from. I would suspect most of the audience is probably going to be from the UK, but we will see. We'll see where everybody's from. So, as I say, the plan for today is to answer some of the questions, more in-depth questions that I've been asked in advance. I've got some data to share with you, how much money we've generated for good causes this month, and then I will open the floor up to you guys when we get to the end. If you want to share anything about your systems, it is completely up to you. I know some people like to give all the stats and some people don't. They just say, hey, I'm here to learn or whatever it is. Whatever you want to do, this stream is for you. So let's start with some of the questions that I've been asked. A lot of these generally come in over the month and I try and pick out the ones that I get asked more than once because quite often there's a lot of the same kind of questions come in. So a couple of weeks ago now, I put out a video about north-facing solar panels, and I used a phrase in those videos which somebody was asking, what does extending the generation day mean? And I put out a little short video to try and explain it, but I thought this is probably a perfect opportunity to sort of go into it in more depth. So if you think about your orientation of your solar on your roof, if you've got a perfect south-facing roof, then you've probably covered that entire roof with panels. But at this time of the year, especially in the UK, we're at quite a high latitude, the sun rises kind of in the northeast. And by the time it gets round to your south-facing panels, it might be mid to late morning before you start seeing any meaningful generation. Well, that's what I wanted to show, is the value of these north-facing panels and what do they contribute. Now, if you haven't seen the full video, I'm going to give you the précis of it now, but this is my 2024 generation chart. This is the orange you see there. Those are my south-facing arrays. So that's the array that's currently sits on my southwest facing roof, and also the 4 panels that sit on my garage roof, which is southeast facing. The blue is my northeast facing panels. So ignore June. We'll come to June in a moment, but you can see there, once you get into March, they start adding a significant contribution. And this is where this longer generation day comes in. So this is the Solar Edge app from a few days ago. I picked this one because it's got almost the perfect curve. There were no clouds in the sky, there were no little dips or anything like that. So if you look at that graph, you'll see, compared to most solar curves that you see, and if you've just got south-facing panels, you probably have quite a steep rise up to the top of the curve and steep drop down. You'll see it's very flat. Now, it's still, at the peak there, we were up at about 6 kilowatts during the day. But what you can see is, look at the start and the end times. That might be a little hard to see there, but we started generating power at about 5:30 in the morning. And we were generating meaningful power, sort of 1 to 2 kilowatts, by about 6 a.m. And we continued to generate right through till about 8:30 at night. So this is what the north-facing array coupled with the south-facing array gives you. It gives you that really early start in the summer, then extends that whole generation day. It sort of flattens your curve down a little bit, but you end up with a 14 to 15 hour generation day. Now there is for every sort of pro, there is a con as well. In the winter, they do next to nothing. They just pick up a bit of ambient light. So in certainly December, January, February, you're not going to get a lot out of a north-facing array. The main reason for me is that where the sun actually rises is behind my neighbour's house. So as it starts to track around to the south to try and get to the south-facing array, it stays behind the houses. It doesn't really peak out till about 10:30 in the morning, and then it only stays in that bit of the sky for a few hours. So north-facing panels, great at this time of the year, not so good in the winter. So this question came based on a video that I did quite a while ago about this idea that Octopus have put forward called zonal pricing, and this is something that Ed Miliband, the person in charge. I don't really know that he's in charge of anything, but Ed Miliband is got to make a decision on this summer. Now, zonal pricing should change two things about the way we buy electricity in this country. One is it would break the link between electricity and gas, which I think everybody agrees is a good thing, that in fact we shouldn't have to be paying so much for electricity just because the price of gas is high. It makes no sense to anybody. So that's one thing that it will do. But there's been a lot of press, and just every day I go and look online, there are more and more videos, some pro-zonal pricing and some absolutely adamant that zonal pricing will be, the end of all of us. So Octopus put out a video that was about higher bills in the south, and actually it turns out with zonal pricing we shouldn't end up with higher bills anywhere, but it will allow those that live right next to renewable energy plants, specifically those in Scotland, to get much cheaper power. Now, the video at the bottom there, which was Ed Miliband on Good Morning Britain, which is, if you can listen to Ed for any length of time, it's actually worth listening to. He was saying that the one thing that he won't allow is anybody's bills to go up. So if we introduce zonal pricing, it should be good for everybody, not just the few people that live in Scotland. So again, lots of pros and cons. The Talk TV right-wing channel there, you're going to be punished. It was all nonsense, but I thought for balance, I'd put them up on the screen because they are involved in this argument. So hopefully zonal pricing won't put the price up in the south of England, but it should mean it brings down all of the cost of our energy. Now, is the government going to be brave enough to completely change the way our energy industry works? I have my doubts, but we will see. So if you haven't seen it, that was the video that I put out. The one thing I was surprised nobody noticed, but the three gentlemen there having a fight, I used a new AI tool that I was playing with at work. That is actually the CEO of British Gas, or Centrica, on the left. That's supposed to be Dale Vince. I think Dale would look at that and say it certainly looks a lot younger and a lot fitter than Dale actually is in real life. And then obviously the CEO of Octopus in the middle, with Ed Miliband refereeing the fight. Nobody picked up on it, so it made me laugh, if nothing else. So the third question that I got quite a lot recently was about management of batteries. So I put out some videos recently about the strategy around how I manage my batteries, and I got a ton of questions from you guys. But the question is AI and battery control. Now, there's a number of different ways you can do this. There's a great video if you haven't seen it. Again, once the live stream is complete, I'll put links to all of these videos into the description. Gary from Gary Does Solar, which if you're not subscribed, great channel, a lot of great information on Gary's channel. He did a video a long time ago talking to Trevor Southwell. Now, Trevor is a computer engineer. Actually lives not far from here, just the other side of Cambridge. And he produced a piece of software called PredBat. You can tell it's an engineer because the name is dreadful. It means predicting batteries or something like that. But PredBat allows you to basically hand over your control to a system. You need a little computer to run this on, and it will figure out what's the best way to optimize your batteries, when to charge, when to discharge, when to force discharge to make you some money. By all accounts, a really great system. Again, I'm a bit of a rogue programmer. I do like to look at other people's source code because that's the way I learn to be a better programmer. I've had a look at Trevor's code. It's amazing. It does all sorts of things. The problem is I'm a bit of a control freak, and I'm not quite willing to hand over my system to the AI. mainly because I want something to do and it would just take away all my fun of figuring it out. But we're starting to see other uses of, or other people implementing different ways of using AI. So if you've got one of the SIG Energy or Sige Energy, I don't actually know how you pronounce that company, but they, with their batteries, now have an AI component in their software that can do a lot of this, obviously specifically to their batteries. And if you want one of the supported batteries and you're on intelligent flux, then you can hand over control to Octopus's system and they will decide when to charge and discharge from your battery. So yeah, lots of opportunities depending on whether you want to go the full tech geek route with Predbat or you just want to do the sort of safe route with Octopus or something in the middle. Me personally, I get a lot of pleasure out of managing my system. It's become a hobby. I probably spend way too much time looking at graphs and charts and figuring things out, but I enjoy it. So I'm not yet willing to hand over to the AI to do that. At some point, the AI might decide it's taking over and I have no say in it, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, so we will come back to questions in the Q&A at the end, but before we do that, I want to jump in and talk a little bit about my net zero challenge for the year. So if this is your first time here, my net zero challenge that I set at the back end of 2024 was to have a zero electricity bill for the year. So that means that it doesn't mean that I don't pay any money every month, but it means when I sum up all of my import and export bills at the end of the year, they should be zero or less. So what we're going to do is when we get to the end of the year, anything that's left, and I'll show you the numbers in a moment and you'll see we're trending in the right direction. We should have a surplus of money at the end of the year, and I intend to give all that money away to good causes. The way this is going to work is obviously I've got a record of what my account was at the beginning of the year. We're going to total up each month, and at the end of the year, hopefully there is a surplus of money. So the way I generate this is I have a 9.6 kilowatt solar array. These are some quite old photographs now, but in fact, those panels are looking really manky. I might have to take some better pictures now. But we have 10 panels on our southwest facing roof. We have 4 on our southeast facing roof, and we have 8 on the front, which is in a northeast facing direction. They all go into batteries. And as I've said in numerous other live streams, I have a bit of a problem with batteries and I keep buying more. And in fact, the chief financial controller has put a moratorium on batteries now. She's telling me there will be a tariff imposed on imports of batteries into this house. Not quite sure how much it's going to be yet, but I suspect it's going to be a lot of money. But we have 3 large Solar Edge batteries connected to the 10 kilowatt inverter. We also have a further 7.2 kilowatts of EcoFlow batteries that are sitting in my garage connected to my fence-mounted solar array. And for those eagle-eyed viewers, if I switch back to the main view now, you'll notice there's 2 more batteries sitting on the shelf behind me there. Like I said, my name's John. I have a battery problem. But we store a lot of energy. Some of the batteries we use, certainly like the new EcoFlow Delta 3 over there, I use it more as a UPS than anything else. So it has a switchover function, which means if the power goes down, it will continue to run my computers. Mainly because all of the other UPSs that I've bought over the years, they're all, some of them have got lead acid batteries in them. They don't last very long. They last a couple of years, and then you try and get a new battery and they say, sorry, we don't make that one anymore. Let me sell you a whole new UPS that will die in a couple of years. So hopefully the EcoFlow will last a little bit longer than that. So just to give you an idea, last year we generated just over 5 megawatts of electricity with our solar array. This year is looking like it's going to be even better because just in the first 4 months of the year, we're already at 2 megawatts. And in fact, last month in April, we generated a megawatt or 1.1 megawatts just in April alone. I'm sure all of you that have had solar arrays, you're here in the UK, you've been lapping it up as much as I have, but March and April have been absolutely stunning. I'm looking out the windows now at grey overcast skies and wondering what happened. Hopefully that wasn't the summer, and we're now in for grey overcast skies for the rest of the year. So as I say, on December the 31st, any surpluses will go to good causes. So how can you guys participate? Now, I'm not going to ask you to buy Bitcoin or anything like that. You're already doing it. just the fact that you watch the videos that I put on YouTube it is all going to good causes. So every penny that I make from YouTube, so all of the money from YouTube ads, Amazon affiliate links, any links that you click on that you buy something, buy me a cup of coffee, all of that kind of stuff, all of that goes into the pot for a good cause or multiple good causes. So last month we made £431.32 from YouTube ads. So thank you very much for those of you that have been putting up with YouTube ads. We made just a further £3.37 from Amazon affiliate links. So you're not doing your homework, guys. You need to click on those Amazon affiliate links. So just as a little cheat, because, you know, we all like to make a bit of money out of Amazon. If you actually click on an Amazon affiliate link and then go and buy something else, I think it's within 2 hours of you clicking on that link, then the credit for whatever you buy will go into the pot. So if you remember and you click on those Amazon affiliate links, even if you just go and buy some washing powder or whatever it is you're going to buy, we will earn a little bit off those affiliate links. It won't cost you anything, and it'll just put some more money in the pot. So thank you to Peter. Peter bought me a cup of coffee, so that's gone into the pot there. You can see we've got about £9 in the pot there. I need to build that up before I can withdraw that. And we had one heat pump referral. So a lot of money has come in from people who have decided to buy heat pumps, and they've used my referral link. So this month, only one. And the reason only one this month, and normally we get 3 to 4 a month, the only reason for only one is Octopus have just changed the way they do their referrals. And it's a little bit annoying, to be totally honest, because when somebody clicked on the referral link and they got into the process, as soon as they booked their installation, then I would get the credit. So £100 would come into my account, which obviously I'd put to one side for good causes. They've changed it now. You don't get the referral money until the installation is complete and they've paid the final bill. So there's actually 7 in the queue at the moment. So there's £700 sitting there, but obviously it won't get paid out until people finish their heat pump installs. So a little bit down this month on the heat pump referrals, but hopefully in a couple of months' time that will all come in. So we made £100 from heat pump referrals, nothing from other Octopus referrals, £3 from coffee, £3.37 from Amazon, and £431.32 from YouTube ads. Now, based on some advice from somebody in last month's things, I actually went and talked to my accountant about this. So I said at the beginning of the year, I will pay the taxes. So obviously money that I earn, because I also have a job, means I have to pay income tax. So everything I get from Amazon and all these people and YouTube ads, I have to pay income tax on. And I said, I will just cover that. So all of the money, 100% of the money that you guys generate will go to good causes. I didn't think it through properly, because what if all of a sudden we just went viral? I could have been staring at hundreds of thousands of pounds of bills. So based on suggestions from a couple of people, I will pay the taxes on the first £10,000, which is probably going to cost me £4,000 because I have to pay higher rate tax. So that's my caveat, is I will cover the taxes up to the first £10,000. So thank you to Richard for the heat pump referral, and to all of you for sitting and listening to the sound of my voice. Hopefully you're getting something out of it other than just generating ad revenue for this. But thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. If you do want to contribute, so these are all the links. They will all be in the description. There's also a QR code there on the screen. That will take you to my link tree. So rather than have pages and pages of referral links, I've consolidated them all onto what's called a link tree. There'll just be one link that will take you there, and that will give you everything from Amazon referrals or basically any way that you can contribute without actually handing over money. The one thing I really don't want anyone doing is handing out, just saying, hey, I want to contribute some cash. That's not the way this is going to work. The way this works is you watch videos, you buy things that you would buy anyway. Don't just think, okay, well, I want to pay some cash. So I really do appreciate it. This is really starting to rack up. So this month we've generated £537.69, which when we put it in the pot means we're currently at £2,803.67. So we had a bit of a bumper month in March, but you can see we're running at roughly about £500 a month. So if we can continue that through the end of the year, then that will be outstanding. So again, thank you to everybody. Okay, so let's talk about what did we export, how much power did we generate, and take a look at those numbers. So for those that don't know, the way we operate our house and our system is we're on Octopus Intelligent Go. We have 2 electric cars, we have a heat pump, we're just about to get a hot tub. Again, lots of things that use lots of electricity. And one of the things that we do is we buy that electricity in overnight at 7p a kilowatt. We store it in that big bank of batteries that you saw earlier. So we imported 647 kilowatt hours of electricity, stored that in our batteries, and then as you can see from the graph on the bottom right there, that cost us £61.80. But the green bit is the off-peak. So the bottom of the chart there, the striped part, that's the standing charge. The green part is off-peak, and then the tiny little bits on the top are just when we've had to touch the peak energy. And really, that's usually when my inverter basically can't ramp up quick enough for a demand. So something starts to charge and wants 3 or 4 kilowatts, and all of a sudden the inverter was fast asleep and it needs to spin up and start pouring out energy. So £61.80, which was 39% less than we used in March. Now, that's not surprising. Like I say, the weather in April has been phenomenally good. We had a day recently where it was 29 degrees just down the road from here, which is unheard of for April in the UK. But so we've turned all our heating down. The heat pump's hardly using anything. I think it used 100 kilowatts in the whole month. And in the middle of January, we'd have used 100 kilowatts in 2 and a bit days. So it's been it's been a good month for electricity usage. But from an export point of view, it's been phenomenal. So we exported just shy of a megawatt, so 966 kilowatts, 966.966. That's a nice round number, isn't it? But that made us £145 and 4 pence, and we exported 31% more than we did in March. We still have our gas, so I was planning to rip out my kitchen about now this year, but unfortunately, due to an orange person who's imposing tariffs around the world, crashed the stock market. The money that I was hoping to get from some investments to pay for a new kitchen didn't quite deliver what we expected. So we might be living with our gas hob for a little bit longer. So it's not a huge amount. I mean, it's £10.52 for gas a month, of which 83% of that is standing charge. So yeah, I think we can live with £10 a month for a little while. So that means when we take away the export fee there, you can see we didn't get any free electricity from Octopus. We rarely do at this time of the year. But we ended up with a credit of £72.77. So when we add that to our running total for 2025, you can see now we're £114 in the red. So another couple of months of nice exports, and hopefully by the middle of the year we'll be in the green, and then all through the summer we'll make enough credit to cover the late November and December electricity bills. And I think we should be significantly in the green by the end of the year, which means even more money to go into the pot for good causes. So that's it for my numbers. Next update on those will be on the 3rd of June, so first Tuesday of June. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch across to that screen, and I'm going to roll back through some of the questions that you guys have asked. So let's start with Simon's. Have you worked out your hourly rate? So yes, I'm assuming you're referring to playing with my batteries. So actually, I know Simon of old. A good friend of both of ours is a gentleman called Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy told both of us years ago, Mike's in sales. He's an absolute monster of a sales guy. And he said he could tell you his hourly rate anytime you ask. He'll tell you, I shouldn't be doing this task because my hourly rate is this, and if somebody else's hourly rate is less than that, I should be employing them to do it for you. So he doesn't waste any time. So yeah, I know my hourly rate, but I don't care. I enjoy playing with my my batteries. Okay, so I'm just looking back through everyone's. We got Ali coming in from from Ireland. The sunny east coast of Ireland. You don't hear that said very often. So I should say my family's from the Dublin area, but every time I go to Ireland, it doesn't matter what day of the year it is, it could be the 21st of June and it has been pouring with rain. Every single time I go, I'm starting to think it's a conspiracy. So Peter's saying up the hill. You might need to be a little more specific with that, Peter. I live in Cambridgeshire. They're the only hills around here are literally the ramps up to the bridges that go over the A14. We've got somebody coming in from the Midlands. Let me make a bit of space on the screen. So we've got Steve coming in from Southampton. So I know Simon is the only person who's coming in. I suppose I shouldn't say islands. So we've got Ireland and Colorado where Simon is, and then everyone else is in the UK. Des, thank you very much. I appreciate that. As Alex. So I'm trying to move these around on the screen so I can actually see them. So 5.4 kilowatts southeast. No. Yeah, that sounds like. So this has always been my thing with solar systems is if I were to try and redo everything that I've done now, it would cost way too much money. But I've built my system up over the last 15 years, and we had our first solar panels installed in 2010, and what we've done is as they start making us money, once they've paid back their initial investment, starts making us money, we reinvest that money. Now, with batteries, that was always difficult. Hence the reason I've got the 3 monolithic solar edge batteries. Modern batteries are all modular. The SIG or SIGE Energy battery that I think it seems to be one of the better ones that's on the market now. But they are literally blocks. It's like putting Lego together. All the connectors are in the block and you just stack another one on top of that. So it means that you don't have to invest a huge amount of money up front, and you can just reinvest some of the profits that you're making from them. But the ability to grow your batteries in smaller chunks is brilliant. So yeah, Simon's got 12.5 kilowatt PV in North Colorado, but Simon's also I can't remember quite how far above sea level you are, but I think he's above most of the clouds as well, which means he gets really good. So Robin, you got 8.5 kilowatts split into 2 arrays. Yeah, 1,122 kilowatts for April. For anybody who's in the UK who's getting these kind of numbers, it has just been an amazing month. Most of you have probably seen my dogs in some of the videos. They are big, fluffy dogs. They struggled a little bit in April. So if it stays like this for another couple of months, I think I might be putting a big bath of ice water in the garden for them. So actually, this brings up a good point. So this came up the other day. Robin's saying that standing. So one of the problems with Octopus up until now is that if you look in the app, you never saw the standing charge, and then if you looked on the web, it showed the standing charge. And then Octopus did an update a couple of days ago, and the standing charge appeared in the app. Well, it appeared in the app for me for one day, and now it's gone again. And I can't get the standing charge to come back. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know if it's they've rolled back a version or something's changed. But yeah, I hope they bring it back. But I don't really know what's happened there because it's just completely disappeared for me. Alex, I started on manual. Life's too short to not use PredBat. Yeah, I mean, from everybody I know who uses it says they love it, said it's really good. It does exactly what it says on the tin. The guy who wrote the software is continually adding new features, supporting new things. So again, I'm just a control freak. I might do a trial. Let's put it that way, and try it out because I'd love to support Trevor and just give it a go. Robin says, nice to see some tail wagging going on. Steve's done 3.45 megawatts already this year. That's phenomenal. You must have a big array, Steve. That's not quite twice what I've done, but yeah, pretty good. And I imagine most of that's been done in the last 8 weeks. Would you move home just so you could have a south-facing roof and start all over again? No, is the honest answer. I'm a couple of years away from retirement. That's my choice. My company might retire me before that. So I have no plans to move. However, and I'm dreading to think if the wife is watching this in the house, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. Behind that wall behind me, we are on the edge of our village. Behind that wall is a very big field. And I happen to know the local farmer is getting close to retirement. And a couple of years ago, he did actually think about selling the field to a developer. But for reasons that I won't go into here, planning permission was turned down for the developer. Flood risks and all sorts of other things. The Environment Agency didn't want it. I have considered going and making him an offer for about 20 acres behind there. One, because it would be somewhere that my wife could put her horse, which is currently on the other side of the village. But I could put a massive solar array back there and just run the cables into the house. I don't know how feasible it is, and I think the chances of me getting it through the chief financial controller are pretty slim. But now, let's just hypothetically here, if I was going to start again, if I was going to do it all again, I would do some things very differently. I wouldn't go with Solar Edge. I'm kind of locked into the Solar Edge ecosystem now. Don't get me wrong, it's faultless. It works perfectly every day. It just does its thing. Their app is rubbish. I mean, it just stops working, doesn't report data, even though the system is running fine. You can quite often log in and it says no communication for 2.5 hours and you don't get any updates in the app. You go to the website is, I would say, mediocre. They've just done a massive update to it and it's still mediocre. I think what they've done is just polished the front end. I think if I was going to do it again, I would probably look at something different. From a battery point of view, probably the SIG Energy batteries. Now, one of the reasons I would consider SIG Energy is they have a feature that I don't think I need, but I actually want, and that is a DC charging module for the car. So right now we have 2 Zappies, which, by the way, are completely useless right now. We don't use the solar function. It is better for us to export the energy, then buy it back from the energy company in the evening to charge the cars, rather than use the solar divert functions in the 2 Zappies or in the Eddy, which is connected to the hot water tank. So all of the solar diverters that we've been using for the last few years are basically off. From a car charging point of view, SIG Energy have a module that just plugs into the stack like a Lego brick, runs a thick DC cable out to a CCS charger, so it means I could charge my car up to 24 kilowatts. Do I need to charge my car at 24 kilowatts? No, but it's kind of cool. And they are promising in the future, when the whole V2G, V2H mess gets sorted out, that this module will be compatible, so you could use your car battery to charge. So yeah, no plans to move, but if I was doing it all over again, I probably wouldn't do Solar Edge. You guys are typing in the chat too quickly and I'm having to scroll back. Let's have a look. Where are we? That's what we got to. Simon says he's at 5,000 feet. He's in the rain, in the shadow of the Rockies. Yeah, I've seen pictures from his house. He's not in the shadow of anything. So Steve is saying, I'm in Essex thinking of getting solar and battery. Yeah, so this is a really good question. Where to start, local company versus big energy provider? So all of my system on my house was, I went with a very reputable local company that had been around for years. They were not the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination, a company called Cambridge Solar. Then things started to go wrong. I'm not sure what happened with the company, but they They basically changed their support at email address to an autoresponder that says, we're restructuring the company, please email info at, and nobody ever replied to that. So it was really difficult to get timely responses out of them. Now, I believe they've resolved a lot of this now because they've actually been bought by another company. But this is one of the challenges of using resellers who are small local companies. The idea of having a small company that when something goes wrong, you call them up, they just come out, is really great. I think if I was doing it again, I would probably use one of the larger providers, somebody like Heatable or Octopus or somebody like that. Somebody that you know isn't going to go away. When you call the phone, maybe Octopus is a bad example because they don't pick the phone up very often, but they do answer on Twitter. So for anybody who's having problems getting in touch with Octopus, use Twitter. X as it's called now. They do respond on that, and every time I've needed to get in touch with them, that's the only thing I use X for, is contacting Octopus, but it seems to work. But yeah, I think I'd want that kind of response that a big company can give. Again, you might pay a little bit more for it. But once the system's installed, support becomes the most important thing. So if your inverter just dies, how do you get in touch with people? Because let me tell you, if you've got a SolarEdge system and you try and contact SolarEdge directly, even though they tell you use our WhatsApp group, whatever it is, their support is appalling. It is just the worst I've ever dealt with. Trying to get them to do anything. I had a problem earlier this year with one of my batteries. One of the 3 batteries was basically going to sleep at night and not waking up in the morning. And I provided them all of the logs. I provided them data that I captured from the Modbus device. I gave them everything, an encyclopedia of data, and they just refused to accept there was a problem. It was only when I proved to them that it was an actual problem, the signal was not being sent to the battery and waking it up, that they turned around and said, oh yeah, there's a bug in our software. This took 2.5 months to resolve. Again, appalling support. So sometimes the big companies aren't the greatest with support, but certainly someone like Heatable, someone like Octopus, if you're looking for an energy provider. And again, so Gary, who does the channel, Gary Does Solar, Gary is putting together a directory of really reliable installers, companies that have got really good recommendations, and he's actually going out and personally checking on them. So maybe have a look over on Gary's channel, have a look at his directory and see if you can find somebody local to you. Okay, where are we now? Simon's asking how much PV can you put on 20 acres? All of it, all of it, the whole thing. And one big thick cable that runs into my house so I can export all that energy. Yeah, I think I need something of a bigger inverter than I've got now, even though we've got a big one. Seems there's quite a lot of you using Predbat. One of the, presuming you cannot use this in conjunction with, yeah, so with if you're using something like Intelligent Octopus Flux, basically what you're doing is you're handing over, I believe it's done through the APIs to all the different vendors, and they've just added SolarEdge to this. So they would use my API key to access the batteries in my house, and then they control when they charge and discharge. So I don't think you can use Predbat and Intelligent Octopus Flux. I think you have to use one or the other. It's a bit like with EVs. You can't schedule separately from Intelligent Octopus Go. You have to let them do the scheduling. But yeah, if you don't want to play with it, if your whole objective is I just want to get the maximum return out of this system as I possibly can, and I'm not interested in how it does it, just give me the money, Predbat might be the way to go for you, because from what I understand is once you set it up, you just let it run. So I assume maybe if you were to move away the solar potential. Yeah, there is no chance I'm moving. We made the decision a long time ago that this is our forever home. But this is actually this is a real problem. Certainly if you're not as old as I am, and maybe you're in your 30s or 40s and you're just getting to the point where you've got your own home and you're thinking about putting solar on it, but all of a sudden a career opportunity appears that takes you off in another direction, what do you do? Now, a lot of people have said, solar will add to the value of your house. But as the gentleman I was talking about earlier, Mike McCarthy, the sales guy, has always said to me that things are only worth what somebody else is willing to pay for them. So if the person that's looking to buy your house has no interest in solar, the fact you've got your roof covered and you've got some batteries and you can tell them the whole story about how it's going to cut their energy bills, if that's not something that they're interested in, they're not going to pay a penny extra just because you've got solar panels on your roof. They'll make you an offer and say, this is what I'm willing to pay. If you don't like it, take the solar panels with you. So that's always a problem. But I think for a lot of people, especially with the prices of current energy, people would look at it and go, actually, well, this might swing the decision. If you're looking at two houses, one with solar, one without, we could move into that one. The only thing I would say is if you are thinking about doing it, get an independent audit done of the solar system, because you might be buying an absolute pup. Simon, when he moved into his house in Colorado, the house had solar on it and it was rubbish and it needed ripped out. So just be careful if you are taking over an older system. Let's have a look here. Dylan Thomas, I'm assuming not the author that I had to sit through poetry by somebody with that name at school. So this is it. So completely aside, are 440 panels now the kind of standard that anyone who's getting a system installed? Because I know you can get 500 watt and even 600 watt panels, but I think they're generally thought of more for commercial properties. But I'm not seeing anybody installing anything bigger than 440 on their house. Has anybody got anything bigger than that? Say mine go between, I think, 395 for some of them up to 440. But I've not seen anyone doing a domestic install with 500 or 600 watt panels yet. So Dylan, Enphase is something that I'm seeing more of. They were around for a while, but I think their new system seems to be really quite good. The only thing that would worry me about the Enphase design, and I'm going to caveat this by saying I probably have got the same problem, is that if an inverter goes wrong, now I know you only lose one. Let's say you got, how many panels you got there? 12 panels. So you probably got 12 inverters up there. If one of them goes wrong, then you have to get scaffolding and get back on the roof and remove the panel to get to the inverter. Whereas if the inverter's in the garage, you just go in and hit it with a stick. But I'm actually in a similar position because I've got a solar edge system. Every single panel's got a solar edge optimizer behind it. So if the optimizer goes bang, then I've got to get up on the roof and get the scaffolding and all the rest of it. So maybe it's not so much of a problem. But it says it's a pain. The app's algorithm cannot add up. Maybe it's running on a Pentium 60, which probably means nothing to anyone who's probably under the age of 50 years old, but one of the very first Pentium chips from Intel couldn't add up either. Robin saying, once you go solar, there's no going back. I wouldn't, if I was forced to move into another house now, I would either have to put solar on it or I would have to buy a house with solar on it. I'm not going back to just handing over large portions of my money to the energy companies. Would your DNO have something to say about putting on lots of extra solar up? Well, yeah. So this is the thing. So, and this only applies to people in the UK. I'm sure in Ireland there might be something similar. I know in the US, different states and different cities have different rules around this. So here in the UK, when you install any generating equipment on your house, you have to inform the DNO. And you can inform them up to 3.68 kilowatts. So if you put you can put as many panels as your inverter will support, but if you've got a 3.6 kilowatt inverter, you can do what's called a G98 application retrospectively. So you can install the kit and just inform them, hey, we've put this in, it's the 3.6 kilowatt inverter. If you're going to put more than that, you need to get pre-approval through something called the G99 process. And different DNOs around the country seem to have different rules here. But as part of my G99 approval, I told them, hey, we're putting in a 10 kilowatt inverter. At the time, I had about a 5 kilowatt export limit. And my local DNO, UK Power Networks, really good, really responsive. They just went, yep, no worries at all. We've upped your export limit to 10 kilowatts. Lovely. If you then show up and say, hey, I want to do another G99 and I've got hundreds of kilowatts sitting in the field behind me, then they're probably going to say, no, not as a domestic supply. You're not going to run a big fat cable from the field into your house and start exporting hundreds of kilowatts down the line. You'd probably need a commercial agreement with them. You probably need to be a commercial power generator at some point. So I think there are limits, and each DNO has different limits on what you can export. I think in our area, I think it's about 14 is the limit that they will allow, and that's something to do with the local transformers. But I haven't pushed it quite that far yet. Where are we? Yeah, so going back to our conversation about whether to use a small or local supply. So yeah, if you go with somebody like Octopus or with Heatable or anything, that you won't get the finger pointing. And we got a lot of this. And given that my whole system is a solar age system, we have a completely separate EcoFlow system as well. But as soon as they found out there was an EcoFlow inverter and batteries on site, they immediately did this. Oh, it must be them, with no evidence whatsoever. Oh, it must be that's causing it. And it was only once I pointed out that, no, I actually switched all of that off, and this is the log file shows it's a problem with your software. Did they finally sort of agree to it? But if you can avoid finger pointing, because commercial companies, obviously, they're there to make money for their shareholders. So they don't want to admit to anything. They just want to be able to close the case as quick as they possibly can. I can't understand why some people would put off the idea of becoming power station. I honestly don't know, but I do have some friends and a couple of neighbours that have solar systems, and they just couldn't care less. They never open the app. They never do anything. They just look at their bill at the end of the month and go, "Oh, I got an export credit." I think it's each into their own. There's plenty of people that own cars but don't know what's under the bonnet. It's what you're interested in, I think. And again, for me, it's a hobby. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy managing it. I enjoy playing with it whenever new software features become available. Once I found Home Assistant, that was it. I can do everything with that now. Simon saying, my own experience as a PV system is... Yeah, hindsight is the perfect science, isn't it? You look back and you say, if I'd only done that, or if I'd only changed that, or if I'd only made that decision rather than that decision. Sometimes you just got to live with it. Like I say, if I was doing it again, I would change vendors. I probably wouldn't change the design of the system. I would still have the same panels. I'd probably see if I could squeeze 500 watt panels on the roof, but you put them in exactly the same places. I would do exactly the same thing, just maybe with a different vendor. So going back to the 441, yeah. So I have a theory. I don't know that this is the reason, but watching the installers take 440 watt panels up a ladder onto my roof, you realise if there was even a slight breeze, they'd have turned into hang gliders. The panels are big, and when you look at the size of 500 watt and 600 watt panels, they are enormous. So I wonder if it's to do with health and safety, that they would need some sort of lift to be able to crane them up there, or it's just easier for one person to be able to move a panel of a certain size. But that's just a theory. Octopus default is microinverter. So this is interesting. I've never actually met anyone who's had a solar install done by Octopus. So assuming they must be using. God, my mind's gone blank. The company we were just talking about, anyway, that do microinverters. Yeah, so 360 watt each, I don't know, 440 watt panels a good fit. That's probably a good reason why they're not using any bigger panels than that. But I mean that argument wouldn't fit for companies that are installing string inverters. You should be able to put bigger panels on if you need to. So this brings up an interesting point. Dylan, I don't know if you've ever tried this. Go back to your DNO and ask for a bigger limit. You don't have to go through your installer. You can you can go to their website, and I can talk from UK Power Networks in the east of England because that's the one I've done it with. So when I had my very first system installed, we had a 2 kilowatt inverter and no export on that one because it was under the FIT system. So we had something called deemed export. So we didn't need an export credit. We then had another 3.6 kilowatt inverter installed and a few more panels. And at that point, I went back to them and said, can I have a bigger limit? So they gave me 3.68 kilowatts because that was the size of the primary inverter. Then once I got both the inverters working together, I went back to them and without involving anybody else, I just literally downloaded a form off their website. It was 2 pages. Said describe all the equipment that you have on your site. So you put in the names of the inverters. You have to be specific about the model numbers. They wanted to know the exact model numbers of the inverters. And then it said, what limit would you like? Now at the time I had a 3.68 and a 2, so I asked for 5.68 and it was granted within 24 hours. So you might have a smaller limit, but don't think that you're stuck with it. Now, there are going to be some situations where you can't get a bigger limit, and it could be down to if you're on a looped supply. So it's difficult to see, but sometimes in some areas, the way the electricity cables come in, they go into one property and then they loop out and into the next property. So on a looped supply, they will reduce your export limit on that. And also, depending on your area, how many people have solar and how many people are on your particular phase. So for those of you that know that energy that comes in from the grid comes in as 3 different phases. And then what they do, excuse me, is they will split off different phases to different properties. So different houses around you, you might all be on different phases. And what they will do is they will look at your particular phase. And if there's lots of people with solar on that particular phase, then they might keep your export limit down. Now, from what I understand, and this is from talking directly to UK Power Networks in the UK, once you've been allocated an export limit, they can't take it back. So don't worry about, well, if I apply and they will go, oh, actually, we made a mistake. You should only have had 3. They won't ever do that. But in my experience, that we've now done 5 approvals through UK Power Networks, and every single time they bumped my export limit up. With no questions whatsoever. So yeah, worth talking to your DNO. N phase, thank you. That's the people that do the microinverters. I had a complete mind block there. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know you could do it over the phone, but yeah, if you've got, it literally was. It was a 2-page document of about 5 minutes to fill it in. I sent it off thinking, well, I'll hear in 90 days. Or what. They have a thing on their website saying that they have a guaranteed response time of about 3 months. But literally the next morning when I got up, I had an email with their response document basically signed saying export limit agreed. So yeah, talk to your DNOs. I do the same. Had my DNO 17 kilowatts. So there's a question: are you on a 3-phase supply? Because I thought, and maybe this is just a UK Power Networks thing, but I'd heard that for them it was a 14 kilowatt limit. Because if I could get a 17 kilowatt export, I might consider putting stuff in the field behind me. But we'd probably need something a bit bigger than that. Heat pump all covered under the bus grant. So yeah, for those that aren't heat pump owners or are planning to get a heat pump, so at the moment there's this grant called the bus grant, the boiler upgrade scheme, and everyone I've heard keeps saying, get it while you can. It looks like it's going away. It doesn't look like it's going away at all. So the amount of money that the government allocated for the bus grant doesn't look like they're even going to be able to spend that money in the full year. But the interesting thing is they're looking like they're going to extend the bus grant. So at the moment, it only works for air to water heat pumps. So if you need radiators. You can't get the bus grant for air to air heat pumps. So basically air conditioning units that do heating and cooling. The rumor is that is about to change, probably in June, that they will expand that bus grant, which means there will be more and more people applying for it. Now, when more and more people apply for a grant, that might mean the funds get used up and the government says, well, we're not going to do this anymore because we've spent all the money. So if you are thinking about getting a heat pump, I would probably get in before the bus grant changes. Okay. So when we were talking about the 17, this will be why. So a new build. So I'm actually surprised. New builds in this country should be built with 3-phase to the house. They've been doing it on the continent for years. I don't know why we still insist on putting single phase in. But if you're 100 meters from the transformer, then and on a new build, there's probably not hundreds of legacy users of solar. There's a new build going on up the road from us, a new town that's being built at a place called Northstowe. And apparently Northstowe, when it's finished, will be like the biggest new town since Milton Keynes. And surprisingly few of the new houses come with solar as standard. And those that do, I think the developers are doing everybody a disservice because they're only putting them on the big houses unless you pay extra. So only the sort of 4 and 5 bedroom houses are getting them. And they're putting 3.6 kilowatt inverters in there with like 8 panels on the roof in a 5 bedroom house. And you can see it's just like this tiny little patch in the middle of this enormous roof. It's like, well, cover the whole roof. Put a decent sized system in there. But no, they're not. Robin saying he thinks the max is 17. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe I thought I heard 14, but maybe 17 is the kid. So if you do the maths, a single phase supply, you're at about 24 kilowatts is really, you're pushing the 100 amp limit. If you've got a 100 amp fuse at 24 kilowatts, you're pushing on, probably shouldn't be getting up that high. I try and limit anything that we do, if we're charging cars and house batteries, everything to about 21 which is around 90 amps. So yes, if you've got a 17 kilowatt export limit, you're using up 3/4 of the connection you've got. Here we go. So Steve said, yeah, that's quite a small export limit for a 13 kilowatt system. What size inverter do you have? Because the way I understand, again, my experience is only of UK Power Networks, but UK Power Networks, they don't ask you what export limit you want. They ask you what inverter size you've got. And if they can, they just give you that number. So if you've got a 10 kilowatt inverter, you get a 10 kilowatt limit. But again, it might just be where I live. Strangely enough, there's not I would say if I draw a circle around my house about 50 meters, there's probably only 3 or 4 people with solar. But all those people that have solar have big solar systems. So it's kind of strange. Yeah. So and that's actually, so we talked earlier on about having solar diverters. So things like the Zappi, and I think a lot of other EV chargers do them now. So they sense when you start to export power, and then they'll divert that amount of power into the car. Like I say, for me, it doesn't make any sense to use them at the moment because we get 15p for exporting the kilowatt. Then I can buy the kilowatt back and put it in the car for 7p and make the profit on it. But if you've got a system where you've got a smaller export limit, and rather than clip the power, i.e. tell the panels to produce less, you can divert that straight into the car. So therefore, that's a good way to utilize a larger system. Can you put a link to the DNO, please? So it depends on where you live. So the country is broken up, I think, into 7 or 8 different DNOs. If you just do a search online, you'll see a map and you'll see where you are. So if you're in the east of England, it's UK Power Networks. I think if you're in the Midlands, it might be National Grid. There's different companies in different regions, and they all have different processes and procedures because we're such an enormous country that we need so many different DNOs. Yeah. So once you've got your paperwork, once you know, so again, you will need to know not just the name of the inverter and the capacity, but they'll ask for a specific model number. And that needs to appear on the G99 or G98 approval. But this was the other thing that I found out was when we did our first install, I let the installer do all of that approval stuff, and it took them a week to do the paperwork and then to send it off, and they got it back. Was I found that, as you say, either pick up the phone to your DNO or drop them an email, and you can get it done in a day. In my area, you can get it done in a day. I've heard horror stories in some other areas, but yeah. Okay, we are at the hour point. So, God, you guys have got you've loads of questions. I really do appreciate everyone's taking the time to join me today. It's so much fun to do these. I think I'm going to do a mid-month Q&A session, because I'd love to get your questions. Just spend some time hanging out. So yeah, if you have questions, I'm here all the time. Like I say, I don't have all the answers, but what I am good at is researching answers. So if you have questions, hit me up in the comments, and yeah, we'll see if we can do another Q&A middle of the month, and then we'll be back early June on the 3rd for an update on how we're doing for raising money for good causes. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much, and I will see you all real soon for another one. Take care. Bye-bye.